Good morning. What a week we're having, isn't it? All these limited hangouts they're being put out. If you don't know what a limited hangout is, it's kind of like when like the CIA or Mossad or back in the day KGB, they let out a story. And it's basically so that it's enough for you to get an idea of it, but not enough for you to go deep into it and to satisfy you enough to move on because they don't want you to go deeper into it. And that's the way I'm looking about what's happening with the Epstein Files, which is that's what they're allowing us to see. What is bigger and more insidious in the other files that we haven't seen, right? But one of the things that I'm floored about is that I thought I was going to get away with not knowing anybody on the Epstein Files until I realized that Dick Marcinko, quote, Demo Dick, co-author of Rogue Warrior, one of the founders of SEAL Team 6, that he's in there as part of a pedophile ring. And that's bad enough in itself, just in the insidiousness of this. But I'm going to take you even further into what floors me just as being a citizen of a country that has an embassy in a foreign country, and the understanding that an embassy is supposed to be sovereign territory in another country, right? Well, we're going to find out that in Mexico with the United States Embassy, that's not true. Not that I say that the guy that they were going after should not have been arrested and should not have been rounded up, but we'll get into that in a sec. And before I get into that, I need to ask you, because I'm really bad about that, please like and subscribe. If you enjoy the material that I'm bringing you, and I'm going to be asking you right now, please comment below what I'm going to do now, because I have a life outside of this. I just have a background in journalism that goes back to my teens of going off to Southeast Asia and following my gut instinct of what I needed to do in my life, right? And it's still there. I'm into finding intel. I'm into bringing back information that people can find useful. And more importantly, as I'm older, my skill is to take what's happening in the world and hopefully bring it down from a macro point of view, like most about everybody who's reporting right now is talking about, and bring it into a micro. Because how can you personally use this information? What does it matter if a ship is going through the Panama Canal? What does it matter off in Gaza that a bunch of people are being genocided? What does that mean? What does it matter that there's fires being lit by the IDF in order for them to buy land on the cheap so that they can move everybody from Israel because of all the crap that they've done over there, and the campaign and strategy is done for them over there for the Rothschilds, and they're going to move to Argentina to create their new Zionist state as prescribed in the original description of what the Zionist state was supposed to be under the book by Theodor Herzl back in the late 1800s, called a Jewish state, where the decision was, do we go to Palestine? And yes, they referred to it as Palestine back then, not Israel, or go to Patagonia and take that over. And what will they do in Patagonia? Remember, these people are about chaos. They're about creating chaos wherever they go. That's their job. They're the little foot soldiers, the little ants. They're not the leaders. Everybody keeps on talking about how Trump is owned by Israel. Yeah, he's owned by Israel. But who owns Israel? That's who you need to be focused on trying to find out exactly. And what is their intention? I have a pretty good idea of why. David Icke talks about this, of why. There's some spiritual stuff happening. There's some extraterrestrial happening. There's some cross-dimensional parallel universe stuff happening. If you delve into what David Icke talks about. And why am I aware of David Icke's? There's another part of my healing when I came back from the war. I went on what is called the Red Road. I also had prior conditions of precognition when I was in combat. You guys who have been at the tip of the spear and are alive because you couldn't consciously think of something, but there was something there that made you say, I won't go into that room right now. And if I do, I'll actually try and come in from another point of view. And the reason is because there's an ambush waiting for you, and actually you defeat the ambush just because of your sixth sense, right? And if you want some documentation of this, please go and watch my interview with McMonigal, the man who stared at goats, the guy who would walk through walls. I'm going to put a link at the end of this episode so you can go there and watch it. And I have visual documentation of one experience of precognition when I knew our sniper was going to get it. Did it help? Did I stop him from stepping on the landmine? No, it didn't. But it gave me the hints of ideas that what we have is ability to be precognitive and to be able to see what is coming and what is happening. We all have that ability. In combat, you get so tired that your conscious mind goes down and your subconscious mind rises to the top and is able to lead you in ways that your conscious mind cannot take care of all these things at the same time, but the subconscious mind can. Enough of that on that subject. So again, if you like the stuff that I'm talking about here, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you really want to treat me and show you really like me, go over to my Substack. You can join and subscribe as a freebie. You don't have to pay to subscribe to my Substack, where I write and then I put other links to other stuff that you might find interesting. But you can buy me a coffee for like $9. I think it's like $9 a month is like the low ring on there. So you're buying me 1 cup of coffee a month. Is that a lot of money? If you like my content, I'd really appreciate that, because it tells me that what I'm doing is helping you and you're finding it interesting, and possibly you're even using that information to your benefit. Again, I'm trying to take the macro, the who, the what, the where, and bring it down for you as a why. Because there's a lot of stuff happening right now. They are, as Jan has been talking about, yesterday he was talking about the thinning. They are thinning us. They are trying to thin us. They're doing the geoengineering. All that stuff that's happening in the east with all your snowstorms that you're feeling down there. And here it is balmy. I mean, right when I'm done here, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to go and buck up some wood and split some wood and get it all stacked up, because the cold is going to be coming back. We've been going between 40 degrees and 33, above freezing, for almost a week right now in my part of Alaska. That should tell you how weird this is. Partly, it's the solar storms. Remember I was telling you about the solar storms, how they were getting you all focused on global warming and preparing for global warming, which doesn't kill you as well as global cooling does. So they've been setting you up so that you're not prepared for global cooling, and that's what will kill you. So all this stuff is happening right now, and it's going to be ramping up even further, because the Israelis got pissed off that Trump didn't bomb Iran, so they released a little bit of the files on Trump. And from what I'm looking at, I mean, if this is documentation that's accurate, these are depositions. These are statements from people. And damn, man. I mean, Dick Marcinko. He's right here. I'm going to put a link. So this is the new format. I'm going to see if you like this better, or you prefer for me to go back to the other one. Like I say, it's been a lot of work. You know, I haven't done editing like this since I was in college. I haven't done it since I was working for CNN in the early days. And that was actually when we had beta. Remember beta tape? Yeah, that's how we used to shoot, like down in the war and everything. And I'd come along as like a translator or or a PA down in Central America while I'm also doing my own photography. Plus, I'm also doing the other jobs that I was doing. This is a lot of work, and I hope you appreciate this, and you're sharing with your friends, you're liking, you're subscribing, and most importantly also is you're commenting. I try to answer all your questions. I get a lot of questions, not only here, but also in the Substack. I try to answer your questions. I'm trying to decide now, is it better for me to respond to you directly like I've been doing, where I type directly into the text response, or just take questions and go through the questions, which actually could be a whole show into itself, because there's a lot of stuff that pops up. While at the same time, I'm trying to report on stuff that's happening and give you analysis as well as I can in terms of what to do, how to do it, where to do it. I'm giving you some hints about where you might be able to move if you have the money and wherewithal to move. And if you can't move, I'll be giving you things to do where you are locally. Like I say, I've made my decision to be here. I've got friends who are still screaming for me to go down to Uruguay, going down to Paraguay, going down to Brazil, going down to Chile, go down to well, now I can't go to Patagonia, right? That's where I would have gone. Not now. No freaking way. But it's because they're going to be bringing chaos to Latin America. And as I said previously, they're going to do it in the same way, divide and conquer. So we're going to see what's going to happen here in North America. Does Canada and the United States become one nation with added provinces, with a border that should never have happened if Benedict Arnold didn't lose at Toronto? And why did he lose? He lost because of disease, not because of any military action. It was because of disease. What was it? Shoot, I forgot what it was. It's stuff that almost killed me as a kid in Vietnam. Typhoid. Yeah. So I think, as I recall, it was a typhoid outbreak. I'll tell you one day about how I almost died in Vietnam because we got fruit that came from Israel. And the fruit was not, the oranges from Israel shipped to Saigon were not washed when they got into our kitchen. They were just like peeled and put on the table. And remember, typhoid's transferred by shit. So there was shit on my freaking orange, and I ate it as a little kid. And so they kept on taking me to the hospital at Tonsanut, and our family friend, who was a doctor and surgeon at the hospital, the captain at that time, Skeeter Johnson, rest in peace, died in a plane crash in San Antonio. There's a wing, I think it's I forget which hospital, but there's a wing that's named after him. Stuart Johnson, Dr. Stuart Johnson, rest in peace. Good family friend, into hunting. Actually, he was coming back with his son from a pheasant hunt, I guess, in Kansas with a couple other friends, and the pilot just smacked it right on the runway in IFR, instrument flight rules conditions, IFR, and died. This guy 20 years ago now. Anyway. But anyway, Skeeter was trying to find out what was wrong with me, and they thought it was cholera because cholera was the problem in Vietnam at the time. Typhoid was the issue because of the imported fruit from Israel, where they did have an issue. So I'm just shitting myself blue, vomiting, and yeah, got really skinny. And thank God they realized it was typhoid, and that's what brought me back to life completely. So typhoid. We would have had Toronto in Canada if not for typhoid, right? Diseases are not to be messed with. That's the next tool that they use. That's why they use the plandemic. And if they can't use a real pandemic, they'll use a plandemic, which is a psyop in order to get you to do things. And we're going to talk about what we call normalcy and what they're going to get us to accept. And that's what's happening. And I think that's what's really happening, bringing it down to how they're trying to, again, reset the society. Remember, go back through the prior talks that I've had, especially the ones with Norman Dodd. Norman Dodd was talking about how they went back through the board meetings, and they were talking about how can you fundamentally change the society. And they said the only way you can do it is with a war. And so they ended up, this is the Carnegie Endowment. Remember, this is all found out in 1954, and nothing has happened. What it tells you is that nothing has happened is because subconsciously or consciously people have accepted it. That's just the way government is. No, it's not the way government is. And hopefully when we have a reset, it's going to be a reset in our favor as compared to the favor of the elites. But it's going to take a lot of pain for people to get off their asses and start to do something. Because we've had how many years? Almost 100 years of people not doing anything except going and fighting fucked up wars for these little bastards who couldn't even freaking pick up a gun and shoot to defend themselves. These are freaking skinny little freaking nerds. They're the weakest of our society, but because they have all this financial wealth and they're interbred, and that's how they keep their wealth. They interbreed with each other just by looking at the Rothschilds. If the Rothschilds are doing, the people above the Rothschilds have been doing even, who knows what they look like and whatever diseases they have because of interbreeding within their own clan. disgusting. And you know this. So physically, we are stronger because we are interbred with different families and different cultures and different ethnicities. That's actually strengthened us, but at the same time, they've been controlling the culture. And that's one of the big issues we got to be watching out for. So, dick. What a dick. I'm going to read this to you. So on April or May, so this is it. There's a link right there for you. Can you see it over there? There it is. That's the full document. And you can see the case number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Blah, blah, blah. So let me read. So on July or August, this is, I'll give you the case ID. It's 31 Echo hyphen November Yankee hyphen 3027571. Again, repeat. 31 Echo hyphen November Yankee hyphen 3027571. Epstein, Jeffrey, child sex trafficking. Date, this was taken 07/19/2019. So, man, 2019. On this date, in 2019 at 11:36 a.m., Kenneth Darrell Turner. I'm trying to find out whether this guy is the same guy that died. I'm finding a lot of people have died. That's what's so wild about this. And it was taken by the NTOC, which is the FBI's National Threat Operations Center. It says here, in July or August 2018, Turner flew to his hometown, and then it's redacted, contacted the FBI and provided all the information. Let's get down to it. And it involves, regarding sex trafficking with minors, that involves ex-Navy SEAL Commander Richard Marcinko and ex-USA Ambassador in Mexico, Earl Wayne Anthony. I think that's another guy. So Dick's dead. Anthony, I think, is dead. I'll have to check. I forget. But here's the wild part. Let me get to that after I read what Turner reached. So Turner reached out to the American Embassy, but they refused to acknowledge what was going on. A month ago, Turner and the Mexican Federal Police found what Turner calls, quote, a vault containing approximately 10,000 videos of minors from Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and some white girls that later on was determined they had been brought into Mexico from South Africa. Oh, the white girls, yeah. By now convicted and in a Mexican prison, Mr. Nissan, Nissan. Again, I'm going to put the link down at the bottom so that you can pull it up. Either it'll be just to the DOJ, or if I can get the link specifically to this document, I will post that below, and you can read it for yourself. It's freaking disgusting. Yeah. I mean, there are people, you know, if you're in the community, the special operations community, and you knew the background of Marcinko, at least what I thought I knew, there was a level of respect. In a later talk, I'm going to talk about what has happened in the special operations community. I think it's freaking eating itself. You got the Rob O'Neills, you got the Sean Ryans, you got the freaking Scott Manns, you got all these people. The amount of glory whoring that is occurring, they don't even use the term anymore. It floors me. If you don't guard against it, it will take over. Remember, many people go in, the CIA actually screens for this. They look for narcissists. And if they can get the narcissist to work within their plan, you get recruited. And then they get you there. It's basically just getting a bird dog that's already trained, has a scent ability, and you're just fine-tuning whatever you need to fine-tune to make that into a super bird dog, right? And special operations, that's what the whole thing is. Special operations origins is an OSS, CIA, before CIA, and it's not the same. That's the reason that Wild Bill Donovan was never hired to be director for CIA. They are two different entities. The closest it ever came is under my recruitment, which was under Bill Casey. Bill Casey was OSS, naval officer, and he brought that quality or that aspect of OSS into CIA. But before and after, Colby, There was Colby. I forget who was before Casey directly, but Colby was Army. Richard. I forget. We'll go back into that later. But what's happened is that the community has just gotten idle hands, right? Idle hands when they have nothing to do, and more the wars that are being made up are made up, which they've always been made up, but now it's just so in your face. Like GWAT was just so in your face that it was all about the MIC and feeding the MIC, the military industrial complex, and all the industries that are involved around the MIC. Remember, it's not just the MIC, it's everything around that. Clothing, food, shoot, pizza. Speaking of pizza, now we're finding out that PIZZAGATE is actually freaking true. And how they're picking minors as pizza. So that guy, that freaking Erica Kirk, we'll talk about Erica Kirk and Project Monarch. More and more I look at her and the stuff that I've been going down the rabbit hole of Project Monarch, aka previously MK Ultra, aka previously Project Artichoke. Sick and twisted acts on the American people. Attacks. And these attacks are in order to condition us. So they've been refining. They're not just dealing with wars. They'll use the pandemic. They'll use trust destroying events. Like Trump turns out to be a pedophile. Well, according to this documentation, if the different sources are accurate and they're not lying their asses off, I leave it to you to go through the documentation. I've here, a man that I respected, didn't have a close relationship with it. I qualify that. Dick Marcinko, just had his business card, used to talk to him. And then he died. And he was at SHOT Show all the time, pretty much. But to realize that he's involved in this, and here's the wild part. So it's like the rat playing the fox, where it says, Turner said that approximately a month ago in one of Marcinko's secret locations, sex tapes and videos were found with Jeffrey Epstein in it. Turner assumes that Marcinko was probably going to use them to blackmail Jeffrey Epstein. So remember, this is 2016. So this was actually previous. So approximately, let's see, go back. So Turner assumes that Marcinko is probably going to use them to blackmail Jeffrey Epstein. This is how these people work. This is very Zionist. This is very IDF. This is very, very Mossad, which is everybody's watching their own back because they know they're going to get a knife in the back. These people play this way. They attack everybody, and then they attack themselves because they're all vying for power and control. Power, control, and, okay, it could be wealth too. But they really don't really care about the wealth. They care about the power and control. It says, Turner added he found the flight logs. I'll let you guys read that, but what I want to get into here is the fact that this is the part to forward. In April or May of 2014, so this is under Obama, the American embassy in Mexico was raided by the Mexican federal police, where 107 American citizens, employees, and contractors, including Ambassador Anthony, were there. Turner said Ambassador Anthony left the country immediately. However, in 2015, Anthony was tried in absentia in Mexico. Damn. And further down into this document, Turner was aghast when he clearly saw a very prominent figure from the United States in one of these videos that Marcinko had. And then Turner spoke with the Mexican president, discussed with him the findings. Turner said the Mexican president gave him the go to contact the FBI and let them know he has this information. And I guess it's not in this document. There's another document. I'll bring it up later if anybody's interested. If you're interested in this other document, I'll go into that one. It revolves around a Marine who took the rap, whether he did it consciously or it was put upon him, for the impregnation of this 11-year-old child in Mexico, which is what sent the Federales into the embassy to go after Turner And they said that they have his DNA, and his DNA connects to the baby in Mexico. And he's now charged in absentia. And I actually went online. I forget if he was still alive or dead. And these people do not, these people do not play around. Turner said the American Embassy in Mexico doesn't want to admit they have agents in charge of investigating him. So they're actually investigating him, not investigating Anthony, but investigating this guy to try and bring it out. So anybody who's trying to do the right thing in this administration and administrations. So this one now, and the prior administrations, like we had Bongino, who's freaking basically just burned his base because he went in, he was supposed to go and do something, and then he pussied out, and now he's back trying to get his following back. But he got his following based on what he said he was going to do if he got into the administration. He didn't do shit. This is where we're at. And the reason is because we have a problem in this country, and I mean a big problem, which is we have gone from doers to becoming reliers. We've become dependent on everybody else doing it for us. And so, well, how can you go and do this? Well, you know what? Yeah, you can go and demonstrate. You can go, and you know what? If there's going to be another Boston Massacre, well, then that's when it does change. And it won't be just the leftists who are going and doing all the rioting. It'll actually be the unification of the American people who are discussing how our country has been stolen from us. And it's been stolen by these people who have no interest in our country, and they have dual nationalities between the U.S. and Israel. I mean, what other country? Let me give you a recap. When I was in Central America, guess who they sent to train us? They sent Mossad. They sent Mossad, and they sent IDF soldiers to come and help. They didn't go and help just the Contras. They came over and helped us with certain things and certain skills, right? You find out later that all this hype about the IDF, it's not as great as they like to think they are. As we noticed when we were always the ones being called in to go and freaking bail their asses out. That's how you know that the IDF that they talk about, and one of the things I used to laugh about, I call the spider dance. So the IDF has the spider dance when they come in, and they're like slapping their feet down. When they come in, they run, and then they stop, and then they do this like spider dance where the feet are going up and down like that, and then they pull, and then they drop. Oh, but just before that, they rack one in their Glocks, right? That shit is bullshit. I never got a chance to shoot IDF, but if I saw a freaking FMLN, if they'd ever done that, that would have given me the opportunity to just drill one right in the middle of their chest, because that's when you're most defenseless. But do you know where that comes from? That comes from when the initial paramilitary for what would become the IDF had their weapons. It was all leftover crap from the Brits. So they'd have Browning high powers that are falling apart, which not to say that a good high power Browning is not a great weapon. If you've ever had to carry one, ever had to use one, you appreciate a Browning high power. No, I'm talking about the ones that the British Army didn't want, the Canadians didn't want, and they freaking just, here, you guys can have this. Yeah, here's your freebie. So they're left with these things, and they're left with these own Enfields and all this kind of crap that are falling apart. So that means they're also going to have potential negligent discharges, right? Or accidental discharges. An accidental one, which is kind of like the SIG. Or the latest SIG. Old SIGs are good. But because of that, that's why they never had a chambered round. When I was in Central America, I always had a chambered round. Whether it was a SIG or it was a 1911. My 1911, we'll go through the EDC. So for you ladies, I will be going and doing a specific what you should carry, because you're going to have to start thinking about that. Things are getting hairy. You need to take responsibility for your own protection. As I said previously, 45 minutes to get here. What if you're a woman living in the country? What if you're a woman in your apartment and some asshole just kicks down the door and is going for whatever he wants or they want? And you've got no protection. You need protection. You know, that old saying about Colt made us all equal. That's men and women. You're going to need firearms if you live in a country. And if you don't, man, sorry. But they did that by intention. They don't want you armed because they know that when they disarm you, then they can do the Venezuelan thing as far as they want. They can do the Chinese thing as far as they want. They won't even. I mean, China doesn't even really need digital banking in order to control people. They got that too. I mean, that's the full state of what they want to have in the rest of the world. And what they're doing right now is, oh yeah, so we got PIZZAGATE and then we got Chomsky, Noam Chomsky. So what you're finding out is all these scumbags that we knew were scumbags because what they were playing back in the 80s, like Chomsky was always talking, oh, what we're doing in Central America was just evil and how dare they do it they're just attacking the campesinos. We weren't attacking the campesinos. We were in full-on firefights directly against the communist FMLN, funded, directed by the Soviet Union, by Fidel Castro and specifically Raul Castro and Daniel Ortega. These people have taken over again, and they did it because they lost militarily. They knew they couldn't win militarily against us, and so they took all their money that they had left and they put it into elections. And that's how they got Lula in. That's how they got Rousseff in Brazil. That's how they got Chavez. And they got Maduro back in. That's the reason Maduro, his guard was not to protect him. It was there to make sure he got whacked in case somebody tried to take him. They were his handlers' direct contact. That's the way those people work. That's their mentality. Kind of like we got Jared Kushner right now, who is the brains and butter for Trump. I hate to say that. We are owned. You can have normalcy bias to think that we are good and we're strong. We're coming back because we got Trump in. Trump 1 is not Trump 2. Trump 2 is truly, from what I'm looking at, it's going to piss a lot of people off. I don't fucking care anymore. You people will stick with me and you'll share it with your friends. This isn't about who's right or wrong about it, other than paying attention to the macro, the stuff that we're seeing, and all these freaking files that are coming out. I mean, the research that's involved in that. And plus, just to go through that crap, I don't want to look at that. Who wants to look at that crap? And that's what they're relying. They don't want us looking at it, or the ones who do go and look at it, they want it to like totally demoralize the American people, which is another psyop on us. If they can turn us into slaves, where it's like, okay, we give up, do whatever you want with us. We'll give you our Second Amendment. We'll give you our First Amendment, and we'll just be like your best slaves. Just tell us what to do. You want to go and do another war in the Middle East? Sure, we'll go there. You want us to go and fight the Chinese? Oh yeah, we'll go do this. Whatever you want. And to the point, we're so far gone and far lost from our ancestors who came to the United States. Or even within your own country, if it's the UK, if it's Australia. Oh my God, what happened to Australia? I mean, you bent over and took it hard. You went into concentration camps. How could you? You Aussies, I mean, I had so much respect for you. And you Kiwis. When I was a kid in Singapore, Boy Scouts, you guys gave me jungle training. Your Kiwi SAS gave us a week with the YMCA in Sentosa Island. And we were learning how to be little commandos. As little kids, we were ready. And we thought you were real men. And then you bent over and got the goddamn fucking death jab. It's a death jab. I got family who got the death jab. And I warned them, do not fucking take this thing. How can you talk to your family and try to warn them? You can only tell them. And once they do it, it's kind of like with my dad. My dad would not take care of himself. And because he was addicted to wheat. He loved his freaking donuts. He loved to eat. Because he got down that road because he was starving to death during the Great Depression. That's what happened. He was starving to death during the Great Depression. And within 2 years, we knew he was on his way. And I said, you know what? Let's stop this shit. Let him enjoy himself. I would go and get him donuts. I'll go get you donuts, Dad. Don't worry about it. God, it chokes me up. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be a country, even though we are dying. We are nowhere near what we were. And that old saying about hard times make strong men, and strong men make good times, and good times make weak men. That's why we have pansy-ass motherfuckers like Bill Gates, who's a fucking pedophile, who never worked out his issues of being a nerd and being picked on by other people. We'll talk about that. What is the revenge of the nerds? But I'll give you a little hint. The revenge of the nerds is, in prior times, if you were the nerd, the weakling, either you got wiped out, because that's freaking genetic selection, right? That's selection. That's the Darwin Award. If you get past not getting the Darwin Award, you continue on and then you propagate, and then hopefully your progeny will be stronger and get better, right? But what happens when you have good times, you don't have the challenging aspects that strengthen you. It's kind of like when I was a kid and I was like reading about lions, and I said, oh, why are the little lion cubs fighting with each other? And why is their mother slapping them around? If they don't get that, and if they don't fight with their other cubs and bite each other, they don't build up the musculature to be able to take on an enemy lion. Because remember, the male lion's only job is not to feed. The female lions go off and feed the pride, right? The female lions go out and kill the buffalo, and the Cape buffalo or the gazelle, and bring it back, and then the rest of the pride eats, including the single male lion, right? But when the day comes and there's a man with a gun or another male lion or an elephant, that job of that lion, and that's the only one, is to protect the pride. That's it. And could get killed. That's it. We don't have that anymore. What we have is we have all these ones who couldn't. These are the ones who didn't exercise, didn't work, didn't pride, and they immediately get wealthy. So they don't have the psychological strength and wherewithal to have an understanding of honor, a code. See, because these are things, we have codes. And even in the military, it's being lost too. We don't have the codes that we had, or they're being ignored. When you have a code, which is death before dishonor, nobody says that anymore. Nobody says, don't be a fucking glory whore. Nobody says that anymore. Instead, you get like, hey man, I got my YouTube channel. Woohoo! You know? It's like, hey, I'm ironclad. Fucking making millions on YouTube. Shoot! But I wasn't Navy SEAL. Yeah, okay. And I'll have people freaking lie their asses off on this show. And Sean Ryan, oh, let him talk. Because they're making the money. What happens every time you do that? It affects all the ones who have been and did follow the code and kept the code, whether in the military or the paramilitary. And there is a code in the paramilitary for all you people in the military think you're, oh, well, yeah, you guys don't have the same regulations we do. We actually have much tighter ones. Because think about it. I will bet you, if you go through the experiences of paramilitary and guys who know, who have been paramilitary and regular military, paramilitary has more combat experience than military. We'll go into that why. But basically is there's so much training that's put into military, standard military, and it looks bad to the families when you get whacked. But if you're paramilitary and you just die in a jungle and your parents never find out, or you come back and they do body washing on you at Fort Huachuca and your parents don't find out, oh, he died in an accident. So he doesn't get the Silver Star, or I would have been a Gold Star. Maybe doesn't even get a Medal of Honor when he deserved it, right? That's the issue that we're having right now, is we have a system and a society that is crumbling, and it's not by accident. So all this stuff that's happening with the Epstein Files, my view is the objective of making it normal. So what used to be considered in the military glory whoring is acceptable now. And pedophilia, like drugs before. So drugs were not acceptable, but now they are. And pedophilia, it's not acceptable, but now it's going to be, because the people who committed these acts and they don't go to prison, well, shit. If they go to prison, that must mean that the powers that be and the society thinks that's okay. And that's how you change a society. These guys are wicked. They've gone way past, oh, let's start a war to change the society. They've done that already. And we've gotten keen on it. And that's what they're realizing. That's the reason that people in Europe don't want to go fight Russians. They said, fuck you. We'll stay here. Because, if we go and fight the wars, we got a bunch of Africans here who are going to rape our women. and impregnate our women. Even more than they're already doing right now. Raping and pillaging in Malmö, in Sweden, in Cologne, in Deutschland, right? In Paris, right? In Marseille. This is that replication migration that the UN has been pushing. And not pushing, they've been doing it. They've done it. And here in the US, bringing in all these illegals right through the border. Paying them through all these OGAs, all these US aid, and all these other fucking crappy agencies have just been there to just totally destroy this country by diluting us. Not racially, because we have different races in this country, culturally. All these other countries where they've learned to be criminals, to come to this country where we're being taught to respect our government. And we've been trained to respect our government. In contrast, as I've been telling you, to be leery of your government. Do not trust your government. And call them to task. Call them to the mast, as we used to say. Get them to the mast. Get them on deck. Nobody's doing that. And that's what this is leading towards, is normalcy bias. We're getting the normalcy bias now is just, it's okay. It'll be okay. The government will take care of it. Because if the government doesn't take care of it, we'll have to be responsible. And nobody wants to be responsible anymore. We've had it too good. I mean, it's painful. I mean, you guys that went through boot. When I went through boot, I got my ass kicked. Was that fun? No. Did you get stronger? Yes. When you survived it, did you have skills that you could actually use later? Yes. Did you want to, if you knew what you were going to go through, would you still sign on? No. Mainly, probably not. From who you were before. But we are, again, good times create weak men. And we are now seeing the effects of that. Weak men who should have said, yeah, Jeffrey, I'm not into it. Which actually, I heard Joe Rogan was the guy who did that. So, power to you, man. You're still a fucking druggie. And what you're doing with drugs and saying it's okay and like, oh, metaphysically, we got to go. You know what? We'll talk about metaphysics. Because you went to the wrong teachers. There are teachers who will actually show you can reach the same states through meditation. Because remember, what is a drug? A drug is a catalyst. If it's a catalyst, it means the actual change that occurs is by what's inside your own body. So there's two ways. You can use a drug as an outside catalyst, or you can use your mind in order to initiate that change. We'll talk about that in a future talk. I told you, I went through my healing for PTS, but I did it drug-free. And that's why I ended up as a drug and alcohol rehab counselor. And I was very successful, as long as they used the tools that I taught them. But the tools require discipline and focus and responsibility, which is exactly where we are right now. Our society needs focus and responsibility and strength. But you get strength by being put under duress. Just like you take steel and you put it in the flame and then immediately you put it into water to temper that steel. That's when it gets strong. But also, it can also be brittle. So you have to find that fine line by retaining the strength that enable a blade to not shatter when it cuts or it's striking a blow. So, on that note, please like and subscribe. Share with your friends. And comment below, do you like this format where I don't jump in with videos and layovers and all that kind of stuff? Saves me a lot of time. I mean, I did 41 minutes instead of having to do 6-7 hours today editing like I've done in the other ones. It takes a lot of work if I'm just trying to get information to you. This is not going to go away. And actually, I'm sad to say, all the stuff we're getting with the Epstein Files is the tip of the iceberg. What's coming is going to be even more. And you need to steel yourself. You need to strengthen yourself. You need to get focused with who you are. Focus with your God. Get ready. Or whatever you need to be strong in what's coming. And you also need to be prepared for the idea that there's going to be so many people that are going to just totally lose their shit. Even more so than they're already doing right now. They're going to do crazy, crazy, crazy things. And as that happens, are they going to be breaking into your homes? Are they going to be stealing your stuff? Have a good afternoon. God bless.